Gimbals was a great start. Coming under the angled Wisconsin Avenue Bridge, Spring Street to the south back in the day, to the east back in the day, and Avenue to the left. And Wells Fargo is having the approximate location of the Dock Yellow Street. It's all in doing for about a mile to about a block to the east of there. People are looking up at Rudy the Duck. Rudy was a famous duck in Milwaukee. She had a number of groups of ducklings. That's right there, right at this bridge. They stopped traffic as they were crossing Wisconsin Avenue. So she ultimately had a statue made there. This art installation on the port side, in Milwaukee's commission San Francisco artist Kurt Franceschi in 1998 for that installation. Kurt named it Dancing with the Measures. Dancing with the Measures. Better than sleeping with the Measures. We're coming into this open area, which will show you a little filming boom that occurred right at the turn of the 20th century. This 8-story building off the port side is called the Germania. It's got green pickle homes up in the top, which translates to pointed bonnets. Opened up in 1896. Art style architecture. Across the street is the Queen Anne Walker Building, 1897. Then we have the Oneida Street Station, this orange brick building off the starboard bow. That's been there for years, 1900. Just down the block, the Cap building was part of that, and we all at the City Hall in 1895. So it's still a boom on the start of the 20th century. The Germania building, George Grunder was his own. He was the publisher of the largest newspaper in Milwaukee, which back in those days was German language. Had to rename the Germania newspaper and the Germania building during World War I due to anti-German sentiment. George Grunder was the Ted Turner of this time. He was the publisher and also the owner of the Boston Red Sox back in 1904. Kind of similar to Ted Turner, but 100 years before. Pay attention to our bridge houses back, newer bridge houses compared to these. Coming out from under the Gilmore Avenue Bridge. On the starboard side, you see a building, very brutal, very rough, very angled. That's brutalist style of architecture. That's the Marcus Center for the Performing Arts. Lots of use of concrete, sharp angles, even the windows are pretty much just functional. Kind of a fad of the late 1950s, early 1960s. What's a home to our off-Broadway plays as they come up. And off the port side, Père Marquette Park. Father Marquette being one of our French missionaries who came here in the late 1600s, became the Louis Joliet. So we have this park in our Jesuit University named after Father Marquette, and Illinois has a city named after Louis. That would be Joliet. Milwaukee's famous for its German brewing heritage. People like Frederick and August Pabst, Beth Miller, Joseph Eli, Del Blatz. Also famous for German sausage makers. Clements, in this case, Usingers. Franz Usinger is about, I'm guessing, 6th generation caretaker of that business. We have a nice retail shop on the other side of the building. So after Solomon Juneau had already laid out his grid of streets on the east side, Hiram Kilburn, a Yankee from Connecticut who came here in 1834, came with, like I said, lots of money. He set up his grid of streets on the west side so they purposefully would not meet the grid of streets that Solomon Juneau had already set up on the east side. He wanted his part of the city to be the grand part of town. So when Solomon Juneau and his followers started to put up a bridge up at Chestnut Street up ahead, Byron Kilmer didn't like it because it was right in his front yard. So in the middle of the night, he and his followers took that bridge out. Over the next 2 weeks, 3 more bridges came down, and what was known as Milwaukee's bridge wars. Shots were fired, blood was shed, but nobody died. There was a cannon put up by the east side. It's really close to where we are right now on the east side. Byron Kilmer's house was kind of where the modern is. It was pointed at his house. Fortunately for Byron Kilmer, the east siders had no cannons. They loaded the cannon with metal block pieces.
I'm sorry, folks. I'm gonna have to
train to a concentration camp in Nazi Germany. When he and other prisoners faked an illness on the train, got kicked off the train. Harry was able to reunite with his wife Purdy. They ended up here in Milwaukee where Harry became a taximan. He was canning the hide of a rhinoceros for the Milwaukee County Zoo. When the guy who commissioned him gave his wife a little bottle of white soup. She liked it so much, she asked for the recipe, started to reproduce it on her stovetop. It became so popular they needed a factory to produce it. That was their factory. Their daughter continued that factory in 2015. It was the white shoe polish was the white shoe polish that all the nurses used back in the day on their leather boots. Take a look off the starboard side to see all these Queen City brick buildings. Some are painted, some have nice new balconies and nice new green windows. You could imagine it without those amenities, so you get an idea of what Milwaukee's riverfront looked like about 1930. All these buildings were built after the fire of 1892 and completed by 1930. They're all part of the historic district. The opening of Buffalo Street just up ahead. When you look down Buffalo Street all the way to the end, you see Galliano Company. It's still one of the Italian grocers that continues to operate today. And on both sides of Buffalo Street, you see old buildings that give you an idea of what Milwaukee's Third Ward looked like at the turn of the 1930s. After most of the Italians moved out between 1960 and 1980, there were maybe 400 people living in the Third Ward. Now over 20,000 people live in the Third Ward. It's a great neighborhood for walking around in, lots of restaurants, boutiques, galleries. This 333 water high-rise is just opening now. You can see that it's for lease. Apartment building. Off to the starboard side of the Milwaukee Public Markets. If you haven't been there yet, it's worth stopping at. Patterned after Pike's Place in Seattle. Not nearly as large, but equally cool. And off the port side, it's planned to be a brewery and a dog park. We'll see. It's been discussed for a while. Foxtown Brewing and Dog Park. It's sort of expected to see it under construction already, so who knows what's going on there. Pickleball happening underneath the freeway. Good to see stuff like that. Space being utilized. Of course, this part of the freeway helped out by the Milwaukee public-private partnership. Back then when it started, the Irish potato famine. As a result, some of those Irish emigrated and ended up here in Milwaukee's Third Ward. They developed a reputation that became known as the Bloody Third. The Bloody Third due to the number of fist fights that broke out at certain establishments closed at a certain time of the evening. Yeah. How do we know that? Well, back then, about 50% of the also the trail jet for the Great Interstate Trail. So you might so it starts here and goes left to the water. You turn this really important to Milwaukee. Start this third from Milwaukee Grade. Somewhere in the get back to Milwaukee. Larger stations that you see, steel stations. I can see that some of you took my advice and go down and see Becca. Notice that it was also a good afternoon for taking pictures up here every day. Taking pictures with what Architectural Digest has just said Milwaukee has the 15th out of 17th most beautiful lake, riverfront, lakefront, oceanfront skyline. I find that a little bit hard to believe. Listen. We just came in the North Gap. We left the harbor via the main gap, came back in the North Gap. This area of breakwater is the oldest, dating back to the 1800s, late 1800s. We're going to dip our nose into Milwaukee's public arena, the McKinley Arena, and slip some more to about 660 boats. Convent them by the night, by the week, by the season. Off in the distance, off of the port side, you see a Gothic tower that's sticking up. That is Rapunzel's Tower. Now, there's lots of good buildings that have been built around it since then. It was built in 1874. What really did that back then was to cover the steam relief valve of the Milwaukee Water Works. There was a big steam pump that pumped water up to a reservoir on top of the bluff there. And those are the natural bluffs of Lake Michigan here in Milwaukee. Everything this side of those bluffs, including our beaches that you see in the distance there, Bradford and McKinley Beach. Those are man-made, sand struck in. Rock is the same thing. We up the bluffs. The Michigan side, state of Michigan has the plains and the beaches. So our little gold coast over there, they're all built up on the natural shoreline of Lake Michigan. About 60 to 80 feet tall bluffs. Many weekdays as we'd be out here in the outer harbor, there would be also sailboats from the Milwaukee community sailing. Easy jumping for house sails. We have the one certificates and sailing. So this land that you see immediately to the starboard side, Veterans Park. Veterans Park is paved land. Veterans Park was built in the 1950s. That seawall was pounded into the lake bed, and then dump truck load after dump truck load after dump truck load after dump truck load of fill was brought down to the lakefront to create a 44-acre Veterans Park. The land for the fill from came from the digging of the I-43 freeway in the 50s. So Veterans Park is a place for recreation. There's a kite stories there. We're now starting to feel in, but it's more typical. Take all your like picking up. Veterans Park owns lots of family reunions. 35 years for the park. So the whole bridge that I talked about earlier, see it in the district? That was completed in 1972, but did not open until 1977. 5 years it was known as the Bridge to Nowhere. It was used for filming of such films as the Blues Brothers with traffic on it. Why was it the Bridge to Nowhere? Well, in the late 1960s, the federal government had approved a freeway spur off of I-43. It was partially built right near Chrysler Ford now stands. It was heading east to the lakefront, and it was going to swing south all the way to connect to the home bridge. Kind of a downtown bypass for I-43. The feds approved it, the state put their rubber stamp of approval on it, but the local politicians actually listened to the local populace who did not want the lakefront freeway. And so they turned the money down. Probably the best thing that never happened to me. Freeway speeds, you got a boulevard, walk across the place in the downtown and east side, get to the lakefront. Which is about 3+ miles of public land, of which I think of only 3 businesses that are private. One being the kite stand over here, driver's side. Another being the Milwaukee duck club. And the third being the restaurant you can see a little bit. Good deal of Milwaukee. Honest, unattractive channel. You can count the buildings on the scale. Four on the right, 4 buildings on the right side. They're all residential, but the second from the right, the shortest of the 4, currently the world's tallest gas timber building. It's tallest building made it out of hard pressed timber structural beams rather than steel structural beams. The newer technology is incorporated all over the world. So how long this remains the world these policies probably, I think, under 1 or 2 years. Three buildings that anchor the southern side of the lakefront. The middle one there, the U.S. Bank Building, that opened in 1972. So the same year as the bridge was completed over 50 years ago. Now it's international style architecture, lots of use of glass, regular angles. Those diagonal beams, about a third up, are structural and strength to that building. The building holds up well next to the newer Northwestern Mutual monolith there. That I always say, if that building was built on the Chicago River in downtown Chicago, it would be just another building, but it does anchor our lakefront. The Northwestern building is the largest building by volume in the state of Wisconsin. 50 feet shorter than the U.S. Bank Building, bigger by volume. And then the taller high-rise on the very left side would be the Coop Quarters. Just opened last fall, really. Still being leased on apartment building. 44 stories, so 2 more stories to the U.S. Bank Building, but shorter. The U.S. Bank Building is still operating in the state of Wisconsin. Then we have the Milwaukee Art Museum campus. You notice the Robert Indiana Lumps cabinet. That's one of 50 strategically placed around the world. And right beyond that is the Eschweiler Pavilion, which houses the main exhibits of the Art Museum, opened in the mid-1970s. And beyond that, we have the War Memorial. You can get a better view of the War Memorial. The architect for the War Memorial was Eero Saarinen. Looking back at our folks from St. Louis. Eero Saarinen, what did he design in St. Louis? The arch. Eero Saarinen designed the arch. Take a look at that when we get a view of it at an angle. I'm going to point out a building before we talk about the Calatrava. The building that you see straight ahead, kind of a miniature version of an Empire State Building with a flame up on top. That's the Milwaukee Gas Company building. Really cool building, interesting both inside and out. And that flame on top was added in the 50s. The gas building, Milwaukee Gas Building dates back to 1930, but the flame was added in the 50s. The local guide to mariners changes color at night. So when the flame is red, there's warm weather in there. When the flame is gold, it's going to turn cold. When the flame is blue, there's no change in view. When it's a flickering flame, expect snow coming. So if you're downtown tonight, take a look and see what tomorrow's forecast is. Then this white building. White building is probably the reason that Milwaukee was noticed for its lakefront. It's affectionately called the Calatrava. The formal name is the Quadracci Pavilion, named after the benefactor of the company and family that donated the money to build it. It was finished in 2001. Santiago Calatrava is a Spanish architect, but he is also a structural engineer. So things that he designs not only are beauty, but also structural integrity. The wing-like structure above it is called the brise soleil. That translates from French to sunshade, so it's meant to shade the exhibit space underneath it. And it opens and closes. Obviously open today. When it closes on top of that teepee-type structure to make it look just like a larger teepee-type structure. It's also a cool view from the interior. You see, looking out at Lake Michigan, it kind of looks like big. Since this was Calatrava's first major United States piece. Since then, he's built a bridge in Dallas, Texas. We have some folks from Arlington here. Have you seen the bridge in Dallas, Texas? Okay. The Calatrava. Would look like white. Would be white.
I live there.
You live on the bridge?
Yeah. Come on.